Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Kait Feriante, and I am the co-founder and CEO of Redwood Literacy. Redwood has been around since 2018, and my husband and I co-founded it really with the desire to see individuals with dyslexia, dysgraphia, and dyscalculia given the support that they need to be set up for their best success. And so that's what we have been working on at Redwood since 2018, and I'm really excited today to be with Mandee. We met earlier this year. We were both EY winning women, a part of the 2025 cohort, which has been such an incredible experience. And one of the benefits is meeting really amazing people like Mandee. And in our very first conversations, we realized that there was just a lot of overlap in who we serve, and we had some interesting conversations, and that has led us to today. So, very excited to dive in. Mandee, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit more?
Yes, hi. Thank you so much. I'm Mandee Heller Adler. I'm very excited to be here. And as Kate mentioned, we met at the EY Winning Women event, which was fabulous. I started International College Counselors 20 years ago, so in 2004, which is crazy. Well, over 20 years ago, 2004. And basically, in a nutshell, what we do is we help students from all over the world, including 80% of students from the US, or 80% of our students are from the US, to get into college and graduate school. So we specialize in helping families navigate the stress, navigate the transition, navigate the process, and really select and get into the colleges of their choice.
And one of the reasons I was so excited to have this conversation with Mandee is we often hear when we're working with families who are supporting their child through a dyslexia diagnosis or who have been, working through various intervention programs as they think about college, there's sometimes a lot of anxiety, like, will my child be able to go to college? And I want to be very clear from the get-go that learning differences like dyslexia, dysgraphia, and dyscalculia have nothing to do with intelligence. And the fact that a student has one of these learning differences doesn't need to be connected to any anxiety about college admissions with the right support. And so that is why I'm so grateful to have Mandee joining us today and have this conversation because, we want to make sure that we're connecting every Redwood student or any potential family who's interested in giving their child with dyslexia that support that they need to pursue whatever dream they may have.
So, feeding off of what Kate was saying, choosing a college is not just about getting in. Fun fact, it's actually not that hard to get into college in the US. It really isn't. There are 3,200 colleges in the US, and some of them accept everybody. There might be a pretty hefty price tag, but some of them will accept everybody. But that's not the goal, right? The goal is to find the right college for your family. The goal is to find the college that your child loves and thrives in. And most importantly, once they graduate, has the long-term success, right? So that is a big thing that we focus on with all students of all different backgrounds, is just making sure that, yes, we can get you in. That's the easy part in a lot of ways. And the hard part is what is the right match for your child so they can be successful and so the process can be really beneficial. One of the things I love about my job is that everything that we help the students with and everything that Kate would help the students with leading up to the college admissions process are actually amazing skills that the child will use later in life. So done right, this can actually be one of the most meaningful experiences, processes that a student can have. And that's our goal, is to, make sure that the fit is right and that the process is right.
Now, if your child is neurodivergent, then they do have a few extra barriers stacked against them when it comes to the college admissions process. And we don't want to, be indirect about that. I think one of the most empowering things that I've seen an actual diagnosis give an individual is the language to describe what's going on for them. Because these individuals are smart, they have a lot of strengths, their brains are amazing, and they can tell that there are things that feel really easy for their peers to do that are really hard for their brain to do. And without that language, it can just feel like there's something wrong with you, which is a terrible feeling to carry and can really get in the way of you believing in yourself and really pursuing your future with a lot of enthusiasm. And if you don't have belief in yourself, it really works against you. And so The first step is really making sure that you take the time while your child is in elementary school, middle school, high school to get that diagnosis into place, even if they're not dramatically struggling in school, because it is going to help them get access to more opportunities at the college level as well. But you can see here on the screen there are some things that are going to be harder for them, and so with that, whenever there's a challenge, what I like to teach my own children, and what I like to practice in my own life, is that when there's something that's hard for me, I need to ask for the right help. And in order to ask for the right help, I need to understand my strengths, understand the gaps, and be able to speak to that specifically. And I think when I think about individuals who are neurodivergent and the college, not just the college admissions process, but like Mandee was saying, this a successful college experience, right? That really you found a place that really fits who you are and who you're trying to become. You find your people, you find your area of interests, and one of the number one things that we say at Redwood is that we want individuals to be able to respectfully self-advocate for themselves. And also to what Mandee said, that doesn't just pay off in your school journey or in college. That is a lifelong skill. People who know themselves well and who can advocate respectfully for themselves in a variety of environments, high pressure environments, are set up for, longer term success. So, with the right support in place, any student with dyslexia, dysgraphia, or dyscalculia can find the right college match for them.
So one of the things that we work through with families is what colleges are actually evaluating. And while we did say there are colleges for everyone, there certainly are colleges that are more selective, that are much more difficult to get into. And what I actually speak at Harvard Business School every year, fun fact. And what I always say to the families, it's kind of a funny thing, is I say, your kids can cure cancer and not get into Harvard, right? And they're like, oh my God, that's crazy. I knew it. Kids can't get in. And I say, well, but your child can be valedictorian and get into Harvard, and then they don't have to cure cancer. And it's like, oh, okay. So just a really interesting nugget to take with you at the end of this session is the most important thing for college admissions is the child's grades and strength of schedule. And so getting the support your child needs in high school can really positively impact where your child ends up in college. So keeping your eye on the schools and the support and the high school and the support will make a huge difference. In addition to that, we have the strength of schedule, right? So it's not just that the kids take, 7 periods of PE and then they get straight A's and they get into college. Standardized testing in most cases. And we actually have a tutoring company under our umbrella called Bright World Tutors that can help students of all different backgrounds and all different levels with their standardized tests. Extracurricular activities, we can help craft and help students find authentic extracurricular activities. I have a student now who actually has some learning differences, and he's teaching low-income kids these learning strategies that he didn't get in his, that he feels they probably don't have. And that's super cool, and that's very authentic for him. Certainly the essays can be a big part of a big part of the application process, and that is something that Redwood and International College Councils will work with your student together on. I will say, as far as the application process is concerned, the essays can be the most overwhelming, right? So there are some students who write one essay, they exist. There are some students who write two essays, they exist. There are also students who write 40 essays. They exist. So how does a student successfully write 40 essays, especially if they're coming at it with some learning challenges? Well, that's where Redwood and International College Councils will come in. And that's where the students are successful, just overcoming their boundaries, including the essays, and not being afraid of writing all those essays because they have a partnership and they have a framework. Letters of recommendation, also important, comes from your high school, and then demonstrated interest. But I would say, as far as this slide is concerned, the grades for sure, and just making sure families understand that these are schools that your children are applying to, and that the essays, don't let your child say, I'm not going to apply to a school because of an essay, because that's a little bit of short-term gain, short-term pain for a lot of long-term gain. And certainly that's something that Redwood and International College Counselors can help you with. All right, so strategies beyond the essays. There's also positioning your activities, picking the right majors, picking your narrative, being smart about the college list, figuring out when you're going to apply. These are just strategies that we work with families. And again, if you're applying to the more competitive colleges and not the ones, that everyone get into, all of these pieces are super important. So it's not just about coming in with good grades and saying, now I want to go. What we say is if you have the grades and scores, you can get into the ballpark. So fun sports analogy, but getting into the team requires all of these other things. And sadly, that can be very overwhelming, and very stressful. But again, having partners, can really benefit your student. What I say to my students who are like, oh, I don't think I need help, I say the most successful CEOs all have a team, right? The most successful athletes, the most successful everything has a team. So I don't see why this should be any different. So all good stuff and everything we can help families with.
So to dig a little bit deeper into maybe some of the areas that your child might struggle with or have extra barriers stacked against them if they do have that neurodivergent diagnosis are here below. Mandee hinted at it, the essay process. Written expression is a very complex set of skills. Working memory, executive functioning, vocabulary, background knowledge, an ability to internalize new information rapidly. I could go on. There are so many skills that go into that written expression process. And if you are neurodivergent, and I'm using neurodivergence pretty broadly, I'm going to go a little more specific. Specifically, dyslexia and dysgraphia, these two learning differences really make the writing process more complex than it already is. If your child has one of these identified learning differences, they are going to have to work harder. They are going to have to exert more energy and put in more hours to be able to produce an essay at the quality of their peers. And I tell students all the time, it's not fair, but life is not fair. And so it depends how you react to it. And one of the ways, that we support students who have this overwhelm or just blatant significant struggle with the written expression process is teaching them repeatable systems. Dyslexia and dysgraphia, if you have a brain that's wired this way, you often just need multiple exposures to the same concept in order for it to stick. And so, if you're given a repeatable system and if you have coaching on how to use it and you get feedback very regularly, especially at the beginning, a lot of feedback on what's working and what's not working, these can set a student up to feel a lot more confident about writing one essay, let alone 40 essays, as well as, again, these are lifelong skills. Written expression, as you develop your written expression skills and your confidence, you're also developing your communication skills and your ability to communicate your ideas clearly with a larger audience, which is going to really help your child no matter what career path they pursue. Things like if there's that executive functioning struggle, if it's managing all the deadlines at once, or just really, having struggles with procrastination and diving into a difficult process, that structured system, that repeatable system can really help reduce some of that overwhelm and give students a very clear, predictable pathway to walk every single time. And our goal with Redwood support when we're working with students in high school, specifically on their written expression, our goal is that we're really helping them get there independently. And I know that AI and, the digital era that we're in is changing how we think about writing. But at the end of the day, if your child doesn't have a really solid foundation of the written expression skills and all that goes into it, it's going to hinder them, again, regardless of what career path they choose. And it's definitely going to hinder them in getting into their dream program. And even if written expression is not something that they want to do a lot of, it may still be something that stresses them out and something that they want to avoid at all costs. They're still going to feel confident that they have the skills to do it and to represent themselves with excellence, no matter what environment they're in.
All right. So, as far as the college admissions process, there's so many pieces that go into it, and I'll just go through this quickly. But as a college admissions counselors, we can help families with choosing courses, being strategic with extracurriculars, balancing your college list, making sure the essays are truly reflective of why the child should get into college. Interview preparation, that's huge. Something that kids need more and more and more because they're not as accustomed to speaking with people directly. And so we work with them a lot. And then as at least our company provides unlimited meetings and communications because things come up, right? We're working with kids and Gosh, so many things happen with kids. Kids get caught cheating and they get caught. I don't know. You have a kid, so you know. Nothing is standard, and we just try to meet children where they are, to love kids and to get them the support that they need on their level. And that's the whole point of International College Counselors in Redwood, is that every child is different and every child deserves an education that meets their needs. And so this is our way of making sure that families and students get the support they need, and so that they can be as successful as possible getting into college. And what I say to families is, if you don't think college matters, you don't want to talk to me, because I do believe college matters and can make a meaningful difference in a child's life. And that's our goal, the right college to make the right difference.
We hope some of that information was helpful, regardless of kind of this next section. And both of our websites have a lot of information. There are blog articles. There are lots of resources for you to work through to just, if you're at the very beginning of your journey, or if you are, already in the process and feeling overwhelmed, there are ways that both organizations can help you. One specific way we're looking to help, I say really two types of learners, is if you have a child who's twice exceptional, they're really gifted, and also have a learning difference like dyslexia or dysgraphia, kind of this next section or this package that we put together would be a really good fit for your child. Or even if your child hasn't been identified as gifted, but they're a bright, ambitious kid who have dreams of going to college, and not just going to college, but finding a program that really matches who they are and what they want, that they believe is going to set them up for success with what they want to do with their life. This support in their junior year, ideally, but junior or senior year can really be a game changer, for what their life after high school looks like. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what the support looks like from the Redwood side. So again, Redwood Literacy exists to serve students with dyslexia, dysgraphia, and dyscalculia. We work with students from kindergarten all the way up through adulthood. And our goal is to provide best-in-class services and products to help individuals with these learning differences be set up for success and be able to pursue whatever they want to pursue in their life. So the package that we are really that we put together specifically with the college admissions process, because we are not college admission experts, so we are going to be referring to ICC for all of those questions. But where we can really come in is helping with that written expression process. And again, because the written expression process is so complex and works on so many different skills, your child is going to walk away with a completed essay or a series of essays, but they're also going to have gained a lot of practical skills on, again, executive functioning, working memory, really these skills that they're going to have to use a lot independently in college to feel successful there. So we've tried to make it really flexible. You get a total of 20 live sessions with one of our dyslexia specialists. We recommend that these 20 sessions happen over a 5 to 6 month period, because we want your child to have enough applied practice using these systems in their schoolwork as well alongside their college admissions process, so that they end that 6 month segment of time really confident to use these skills independently and not to be reliant on the Redwood specialist to feel successful in these areas. So we're going to teach them repeatable writing systems they can use for essay writing. We're going to teach them assistive technology tools that they can use to make their college admissions process as well as their college experience a lot more manageable. And we're going to work with them on understanding how their brain works, how to really understand their learning difference, how to talk about it, and how to advocate for themselves once they get into the college of their choice. The Redwood support will kind of be in 3 phases. So phase 1, we're going to be getting to know your child. We're going to be really figuring out what are they really good at, what are the areas that are hard for them, and how do we build a foundation? How do we fill in those foundational academic skill gaps and provide those systems, those repeatable systems? Phase 2 is all about practicing using those repeatable systems independently and getting immediate feedback. And then phase 3 is pulling back some of the support and seeing, okay, how do these new systems hold up when the student is using them independently? And I've mentioned this already, but if your student comes out the other side of a 6 month intensive, really working on their written expression skills, they're going to not only have an essay that can stand out, amongst many applications, but they also are going to have a much more just a lot more confidence in their communication and in their ability to internalize new information, represent themselves with excellence, represent themselves in the way that they want to be seen, versus feeling at the mercy of maybe some skill gaps that they're constantly trying to hide or feel embarrassed, by. And so our goal is that they really come out the other side with a new level of confidence and view of themselves that, again, is not only going to help them get into the college of their choice, but it's going to help them feel successful throughout that college experience.
All right. So we firmly believe that strategy and systems equals power, right? So knowing is half the battle, as I always like to say. And actually, I started the business because I felt like when I was in high school, there were things I just didn't know, and if someone had just told me, I would have done them, right? And so what we want to make sure is that the students have the strategies and the systems to be successful, so they don't look back and say, "Gosh, I wish I had known." So what the two of us together or the two companies together can provide your families are with clear admissions roadmaps. What do the student need to do and when? Strong narratives, right? So what should the student be writing about? What is going to be most important for a college admissions reader? Um, Doing the best we can to reduce senior year stress. I'm going to say doing the best we can. We can't take away all the stress, but we can make it better. But certainly it's a long process. But having a partner and having a mentor by a child's side and even by a parent's side can make things a lot easier. I'm actually super excited. I have 4 weddings this summer of previous students, which makes me feel so happy, which only goes to show that this is a process that really bonds you with the counselor, with the student, and really can make a meaningful difference long term. We help the students with communication. Again, that's a huge area that students are learning, whether they have learning differences or not. Just how do you communicate on email? How do you communicate in person, not just on text? And then certainly we do all we can to help the children organize because if there are any parents on who have children who are in juniors or sophomores, gosh, if you think your kids are busy now, you have not seen first semester senior year. So whatever we can do to protect against, last minute stress and last minute work that really leads to increased stress. So super exciting and good stuff that again lasts a lifetime. All right. So this is as international college counselors, we have different packages depending on the number of schools that students apply to. For the most part, students apply to 10 schools, and we charge about 15,000 for the 10 schools. Some students are applying to the more competitive colleges, right? So if you're like, I want my kid to go to Harvard or MIT or Stanford, that does not scare me at all. However, that just means we usually apply to a few more schools. And that's okay, and that's very normal. Our students last year, we had 12 kids get into Stanford. I think 11 kids go to Harvard, about 15 going to Penn. So we're all good with however high your child wants to aspire. But just know that usually that includes a lot more applications. And when we talked about the students who write 40 essays, those are usually the students who have really high aspirations. A school like Stanford can have, I think it's 5 essays. Pretty sure MIT has 5 essays. Pretty sure Harvard had 4 essays. So you combine just those 3 schools and you're, close to 15 essays. But anyway, the point is we have different packages, and we work with your family to figure out what makes the most sense for them. And then combined with Redwood, we're going to do the best we can to make sure that your child reaches their college and career goals.
And then these are the price points for the Redwood investment. So again, we recommend that you begin this process, especially if your child has a learning difference in during their junior year, because you don't, like Mandee said, you don't want to wait until the last minute. These repeatable systems take time, and they take applied practice, and they take rounds of feedback and editing to really get your child to the confidence level that we want to see them at. If you just work with us independently, it's 5,300, but there's a small discount for partnering with ICC, and that's what we recommend. Because again, being very forthright, we are not college admission experts by any means. We are going to be sending you to people like ICC, but where we can really come in is helping your child with that specific learning difference of dyslexia or dysgraphia feel like they have an equal shot at that process and feel like they are again feeling parametered because of skill gaps or because of narratives or lack of an understanding about how their brain works, but that they feel confident to pursue whatever path they want to pursue, including, places like Harvard and Stanford. Those are just as much on the table for a neurodivergent learner with the right support.
All right, so who should apply now? So I would say for the Redwood International College Counselors collaboration, it's really geared to juniors and seniors. If your child is aiming for some of those more competitive colleges, I would get started with an ICC earlier, simply because we want to make sure we get those classes in order. We want to make sure that we get the extracurricular activities and we just start to craft the resumes that then will make you more successful as a junior and senior. We still can bring in Redwood earlier as a partner, knowing that the work with them will begin junior year because it really is focused on how your child will perform getting into college and then when they are in college. Certainly, this is catered to students who are diagnosed or suspected to have dyslexia, dysgraphia, or dyscalculia. And as we said, those kids can be just as successful, if not more successful, than other students. And our goal is just to make sure we provide a product that meets every kid's needs. And actually, as a company, just something we do is we do split up the students. So if you have a child who wants a scholar athlete or a musician or an artist or so every child has their own needs, and our job with Redwood is to make sure that your child's needs is met and they are met and that they can be the most successful. Um, a lot of these students are verbally strong, so they can tell their stories, and we are just helping to make sure that they can put those stories on paper, so that the colleges know who they are. Because I did mention interviews, but I can tell you those are getting less and less important with time, and that the most important piece of the application is what the child puts on the application itself, so the written output. And also, certainly who should apply is families that are ready to be proactive. So families not willing to sit back, people who realize that planning is the secret to all of this. Starting early is the secret to a successful admissions process. I will argue that no child wakes up senior year and decides they want to go to Harvard and actually gets in. As sad as it may sound, it is really a 4-year process. Sometimes the spoils go to the girls because they usually wake up a little bit earlier. But boys, especially with the support of their families and support of their teachers, can see the end goal as well and start as early as they need to be.
So I think we've already spoken to this, but just to reiterate it, I mean, as Mandee said, and we say this in the dyslexia world as well, it's never too early to get started thinking about what skills need to be in place to set your child up for long-term success when they, in building their own independent career and path for themselves. And so, if you're watching this and you have a younger child, I mean, any student with dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, specialized support is going to help them be more successful every single time. And the earlier that specialized support happens, the less the process is going to cost you, cost them when it comes to energy, financial resources, time resources, all the things. Um, but we definitely want to see for this package, we definitely want to see students in their junior year of high school to have time to really work on that written expression process, to have time to work on that self-advocacy piece, and to make sure that they have access to ICC's resources and timeline in a way that's not rushed or stressful. So the earlier you start thinking about this, the better the outcomes for your child. And this is our information. Our emails and phone numbers are here. We would love to hear from you. If you have a question about, any of these, if you have a child with dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, if you have a question about the college admissions process, like we mentioned, our websites are full of helpful resources. We hope this has given you some valuable information, and we'd love to hear from you if there's a way that we can support you further. We have a limited number of seats available for this particular partnership. So if this has piqued your interest, and if you know that your child is the right candidate for this program, reach out to us. We'd love to start that conversation with you.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you so much for coming today and for advocating for your students.
Cheers.